Hello class. In this video I'm going to look at doing shadows in SketchUp. Shadows are important for any 3D modeling, really any rendering. I'm going to do lectures in this class. You'll hear me talking about it several times in this class. I'm sure you heard me talking about it in other classes, that we really view the world through shadows. They really change our perception, and really by adding shadows it really affects the way we see this and makes it look more realistic, makes it look more three-dimensional, makes it look more like it's really going to look. So they're really important. I really recommend anytime you're doing any kind of rendering, especially 3D rendering perspectives like this, that you have your shadows on. In SketchUp it's easy. If you already know how to do it, no problem. I'm going to show you how to do it, and I'll show you how to tweak it a little bit. But of course, just like everything, eventually when we get into Photoshop, I'm going to show you how to really enhance those shadows there as well, which is great, because I know some people complain that the lighting and shadows in SketchUp aren't as good as other softwares, and that is true, but even other softwares don't do a fantastic job for really controlling it, and you want to do stuff in Photoshop anyway. But anyway, I'm going to scroll up on my default tray to find shadows. Again, if it's not there, Windows default tray, click on shadows, and there you go. Turn on shadows is pretty simple. You just hit this button and boom, there's shadows turned on. We see the shading changes and we see those shadows. Now you want to go ahead and spend some time thinking about how these shadows are projected. So there's a couple things you might want to think about. One is, if these are your primary faces, you might want to change the shadow orientation to be in a different direction, to maybe lighten or darken. I don't know how yours is going to come up, right? How or what project you're working on, you know. So you might want to change it, and you can change it through time of day, time and date. If you don't know, you could set a location. We didn't do that for this assignment. It's not entirely important, but you could set your location pretty easily under your preferences, and then the shadows would be real. This is really how, if you orientate your building correctly, the shadows will be like technically correct. And so I can change the shadows and how they go just by pulling this. Time of day, of course, is going to make them longer or shorter depending on time of day, and the same thing with time of year. So I generally don't like that where it's a bit too dark, so I'm going to pull, you know, more towards this way. And you know, I think I was probably pretty close, I think, because I was probably playing around with this before. But if I want to sort of come into the morning and brighten up that porch, I might also want to do something like that as well. You know, something like that might be pretty good for this drawing, because I'm highlighting a shadow line behind this to protrude, which looks really nice. I'm getting a shadow line under the roof to really express that those shadows are overhung, that this is overhung, and yet I'm still getting light into this porch area. So I might go with that, and that sort of shadow orientation. Now the other thing you can do with shadows is you can change the brightness and darkness. So you can change the lights to darker or brighter of the whole model, and I might leave that fairly high, and you can change the darks to be darker as well. Right? So the default settings are usually pretty good. You know, usually having lighter being lighter than the darker, you know, so it's not too muted, is pretty good. So I'll just play with that, and I'll set that up, and I'll say, you know, there's my shadows. Don't forget to save it. The other thing you want to do is you can record these shadow settings, because different scenes up here can be set to different things. So if I right click over scene, I can say update, and I'm going to say save. I can do save as new style and all these things. You don't necessarily have to, but I'm going to update scene just so everything sort of is saved exactly as I want it, and I can sort of go back to it as needed. And with that's shadows, and I'll be ready for exporting this into Photoshop. But I'll make a new video just to show some important things. It's easy, but again, some important things with that. So don't forget, shadows are important. Turn them on. We definitely want to see them.